Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Off the Bandstand. My name is Christian Wiggs. I am your host. Today's episode is the king of ballads, the champion of the opening verse, Mr. Kenny Williams. Kenny is one of my favorite people in the entire world and someone whose personality is just as beautiful as the music that they create, which is really saying something because he is one of the most lush, beautiful sounds that I've ever heard. Kenny and I talk about his start here as a native Austinite and then going to the University of Texas, getting involved with the Zach Theater, his reluctant introduction to musical theater, and then, how that carried him to the epicenter of musical theater, which is in New York City, Broadway, whenever he was in The Lion King for 8.5 years. So we'll make sure to jump into this episode as quickly as possible. A couple things to plug specifically with Kenny too is that Parker Jazz Club does live streams every week, and Kenny's night is every Saturday at 8 p.m. and they usually go for about an hour to an hour and a half. So make sure to tune in there on Parker's Facebook page and also go over to their website where you can see the live stream as well. Kenny also released an album that we plugged a few episodes ago, but he released it last year. It's called Kenny Williams Sings. That is a stacked track listing of some of my favorite standards like Stardust, The Very Thought of You, and For All We Know. And that's on all the different streaming platforms, so make sure to go and support that if you can. And he also has physical copies available as well, and you can go over to his website, which is kennywilliamsings.com, and we'll make sure to include that link later in the episode whenever he talks and plugs his own website. So going over to records like we do every week, the tradition of plugging different jazz musicians' records here in Austin and elsewhere. Jim Buennig, who is here in Austin, we also plugged one of his things a few weeks ago. He's releasing yet another thing. I told you this guy's releasing stuff all the time. It is called Benchwarmers Volume 1, and it's all unreleased and alternate takes from previous sessions. The track you're hearing right now is called What If I Told You, and that releases tomorrow, Friday, September 4th. On Bandcamp, which his Bandcamp is jimonsacks.bandcamp.com. And if you want to learn more about Jim's work, you can go over to his website, which is jimbuennig.com. The next person who I want to plug is someone who I have just the utmost reverence for. He's been an incredible informal mentor to me, but the stuff that he has had to say, and helped me along the way over the past several years has really completely changed the way that I view our craft and jazz as a whole and what it is I should be doing on my records. So Clark Summers is a bass player out of Chicago. He's Kurt Elling's longtime bass player for the past decade or so, and he has released his second record under the band name called Bash, and the record is called Peninsula. It released back in March of 2020. The track you're hearing right now is the first track. It's called High Tide, and there's even a Jazz Times review of it, and then a Jazz Times article that goes in depth and interviews Clark, which is called Clark Summers Pivots for Unpredictability, and we'll put that link in the description below so that way you can go and check that out as well. So definitely go support Clark, and Kurt and Clark have been playing some live streams, both some outdoor performances on a porch and then also over at the Green Mill, the historic Green Mill in Chicago. So I understand that there will be more of those to come. They did one last weekend, but make sure to like the Green Mill's page and also Kurt Elling's page so that way you can keep up with that and have all the latest news on when those live streams will be. So one last thing to plug is that Colin Shook's Monk's Jazz Club is still doing shows. They are just cranking them out and really quality material every single time. So let's plug those shows real quick. On Tuesday, September 8th is going to be Dr. James Polk's 80th birthday with Centerpiece. Make sure to tune into that and support Monks in that way. The next live stream that they're going to have is Thursday, September 10th at 7:30, which is the Andre Hayward Quintet. And all of these shows are at 7:30, I should add, so that way there's some consistency. You always know whenever they're going to be. The next show is going to be Sunday, September 13th, which is going to be the Elias Hasslinger Quartet at 7:30. So again, Sunday, September 13th. And then the last one is going to be, or for now, not last one in general, but last one for now, is Sparky Thomason's Quintet, which is going to be Thursday, September 17th at 7:30 p.m. Make sure to tune into that. Sparky is, I guess, an alumni of the show. He was our guest on episode 4, I believe it was. So make sure to go and check that out if you want to learn more about Sparky behind the scenes, off the bandstand. And then make sure to tune into the Monk's Jazz Show to go and support them with that. So anyways, that's all the announcements that I have for now. Let's go ahead and jump right into the episode. Here is episode 10, Kenny Williams. This is Off the Bandstand. Here we are on Earth together, you and I. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Off the Bandstand, episode whatever it's going to be at any point in time. Singer extraordinaire, the one and only singer in Austin that can make me weep just by opening his mouth, singing a single line of an opening verse to a jazz standard that people don't do anymore, and you brought it back single-handedly. You brought verses back to Austin, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm going to say that for real. You really did bring all those back to the point where, like, you would even start singing verse intros. And I'd be like, I've never heard this before. What is this? And then it ends up being Fly Me to the Moon. And I was like, oh, that's painful that I didn't know that. But no, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer extraordinaire, the most beautiful man, Kenny Williams.
You're so kind.
Thank you. That's who I am. That's what I do.
I'm so glad to be here.
Kenny, we haven't seen each other since Curtis Stigers.
That's right.
Man, and we had no idea. I mean, we knew that like things were maybe going to get a little tumultuous for a little bit, but we had no idea because that was March the 12th.
March
the 12th. Yeah, because I remember the next day was when everything really started to crack down and all the gigs started being canceled. And
I had my last gig on the 16th of March.
Really? Okay. So
15th was whatever that Sunday was. It was at Geraldine's, and the next day shut down.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably had a lot of stuff on the schedule. Like we were.
I did.
Yeah. Like me and Thomas were playing a big band gig for.
I love Thomas.
I love him so much. He just moved. Tears.
I know.
Yeah. I'll crudely edit in some tears, like blue droplets, just like coming down.
Like you killed somebody in prison.
Make a little river. Yeah.
Well.
But we were sitting there, and I remember on break on this big band gig we were doing for Quinceañera, I just started getting call after call after call after call, and then we went up, and then I was getting like buzz on my phone, and I knew what it was, and I was like, I'm not looking at it. A, I'm on stage. B, I'm performing. I can't look at my phone, but I know exactly what these calls are. And even like a good buddy over at the Highball, right? Keith Ruckus, who has become a friend, he called me that following Monday. And I answered the phone, and he was like, hey, man, how are you? And I was like, I'm doing pretty good. Is this the call Kiss of Death? And he was like, it is. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take it easy on you. It's fine. And but yeah, I mean, it's been insane. But here's the thing. You have been more, and I mean this in like the most loving, and I'm so happy for you way, that you've had like a little more privilege than the rest of us of being able to still do the live stream. Well, not privilege, you know, but like it's a privilege to be on that stage is what
Yes, it is. Yeah.
but the privilege of still being able to have some musical interaction, and I'm sure that's got to be healthy for your soul, and like keeping up vocal technique and all those things. Obviously, like we still practice, but I mean, you still are. Just gonna go ahead. Let's just take a drink.
Yeah, I practice. Yeah, practice lifting this glass.
I'll tell you what, this part of my arm is getting, you know, really strong from lifting this glass,
Right.
lifting bottles and pouring. You know, it's really great. No, but how's that been for you with over at Parker and continuing to do that? Because I guess there was a little bit of a delay, right, between.
Oh yeah, I just started that back maybe maybe 6 weeks ago. But the funny thing is that like when the pandemic happened and everything shut down, I welcomed the break, even though I was gonna, because you know, going into it, we didn't think it was gonna be that long. You know, you're thinking like, okay, a month, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No, we're still here.
Yeah.
But I welcomed the break. Gratefully, I was working a lot, and I don't know, just for some reason, I was totally embracing of the time to kind of pause and go, whew, okay, let me recollect myself. And you know, when you're in that mode of just going and going and going, you don't really stop to think about it. You just go, and that's kind of what I was doing. And not that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, but it was just I was just going, and I was preparing for a lot because April, May, and June was going to be really busy with a lot of great gigs and private gigs and out of town gigs, and had a New York gig on the books that got thankfully postponed to next June, 2021.
Is that, and without giving anything away, because I know it's probably top secret, but is it the thing that you and I have talked about in the past?
I don't know, have we?
I think so.
Oh, we talked about that. I don't know. Wait, my napkin. What?
I'll edit this part out. And we're back. Sorry, for the sake of keeping things under wraps, we had to do a quick edit. Okay.
You can say I just want to say too much because, you know,
sure,
who knows what can still happen. But so yeah, that was kind of sad that got postponed. But at the same time, it was a lot of music, and it was like, oh my God. And so I was like, okay, I can take a little more time to prepare for that. You know, I can lose 20 pounds. I can do, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, but no, I remember like 2 weeks ago, I was doing the live stream at Parker, and when I was thanking everyone, thanking the band and Mac and Chris, one of the things I said, I was like, I was so grateful for the opportunity to be doing this, because like, it doesn't have to be me for one. It could be anyone, you know, you could invite anyone to do that. And it was like, it doesn't have to be me. And so I was very grateful for that platform to share my talent and to be creative and to have that outlet. And so, yeah, it's been because it's only about maybe an hour. I mean, I keep it about an hour 15. I could do as much as I want. You can do it longer if you want. I was like, oh, that's enough. You know, it's just enough. She's like, you know, just keep everything wet and nice, and you know.
Yeah, that's the other cool clip that I'm gonna talk about. Just enough.
Right. Just enough. Just enough.
No, I think that's, I don't know. I think that's also like a testament of keeping the normalcy of things, right? Because we usually don't do, I mean, maybe we'll do like a 90-minute set, right? Like I think Parker does 90 minutes, but generally most places it's like 60 minutes, maybe 75 minutes. And yeah, it's like, you know, there's nobody in the house, like they're all online, but in the time, and I don't want to add to the stockpile of the news reporters that's like, we need to get back to some sort of normalcy. It's like, it's not what I'm getting at, but it does help to have that kind of thing that's like, oh no, this is reminiscent of, as opposed to just doing 2 straight hours, you know?
Right.
Then again, if it's been a challenging week and your soul needs that 2 hours, maybe it's like, well, I'm just gonna use this as therapy too.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I have other means of getting my therapy in, so
yeah,
I don't have to necessarily sing for that.
What do you do whenever you're not would like to relax? Whenever you're not on stage? Well, I mean, I know on stage is not
it's technically relaxation, but it can
Right.
be. So
It is, yeah. I think it is. I mean, I love it. You know, it can be stressful. It's stressful. It's stressful in those first few moments before I actually go out onto the stage, and then once I get on stage, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, you know, I used to always question, why am I still getting nervous or getting butterflies? But I've learned to embrace it and just be like, you know, because just a reminder to me that it's bigger than me and that I can't do it by myself. And so, you know, I say a prayer, I hit the stage, and I feel fine.
Yeah.
You know, I love that, you know, so I welcome the butterflies.
Yeah.
And they only happen until I walk into the club. When I'm at home getting ready, everything's great. You know, then like when I step into the club or step into the green room or step into wherever, I'm like, oh God, and I start worrying about everything being a certain way. And then when I hit the stage, it all goes away.
Yeah. Do you ever drink before the gig?
I don't. It's funny because I actually drink on the gig, but I never drink before the gig.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of what I meant. It's like, do
Yeah.
you like to, well, I mean, I know this because I've seen you plenty of times at Three Forks and in between tunes, you know.
But wine is the only thing I can drink and sing. Like I can't
Yeah.
have alcohol. I can't have liquor. Like I couldn't do an old fashioned or a little sniff of tequila or scotch or something because it would drive me out like crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think,
Yeah.
I don't even know if even on the times when we hang out, when you're not just having finished a gig, I don't think I've ever seen you drink anything but wine. Every time we go out for drinks, every time we do, you're always just grabbing a glass of
Well, I mean, wine is my favorite thing. But I mean, no, we haven't had old fashions.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite drinks. Oh my God.
We'll make it happen immediately as soon as we can. So Kenny, we talked about so many things like just whenever we hang out and after gigs or before gigs, at each other's gigs, whatever. But there are some other things that I want people to know about you. And there's also things that even in our multiple times of being together, I still haven't asked you like the full story about. And those are kind of some of the things I wanted to talk about. So I guess you said at the beginning, and I don't know if we included that part where we were like, all right, here's your introduction. Because Mr. Kenny Williams wanted a grand introduction, and he deserves it.
No, I did not. I just want what everyone else got. Give me what everyone else gets. Don't take for granted that we're friends.
No, of course. So anyways, you said you were like, we're not going to go back that far, but I do want to just understand a little bit about like your coming up and like when you started. And I don't want to give you those softball questions of when did you first know that you like to sing?
Okay.
But I want people to know about this because the thing about your voice and the thing about your presence when you perform is that it's so captivating, but not because of, or I should say not only because of your vocal ability, but because people don't feel like they are getting the singer Kenny Williams when they listen to you sing. They feel like they are getting Kenny Williams. There's no performer facade. It is so purely you, and it feels so authentic and so genuine. So where did
that's the word?
Yeah.
I mean, for me. That's kind of always been the goal. To be authentic on stage. It's like when you see me on stage, you're seeing me at probably the most authentic in my life.
Sure.
In that moment. Because it's just something I've worked at for so long, and I didn't work at being authentic. I just worked at communicating and worked at being myself and letting go and being free and being in the moment and being present, things like that. But I mean, I started singing. I started singing when I was 5. I was always walking around the house with a brush like it's a microphone and singing all the time. And my mother put me in voice lessons when I was 5. So that's kind of when my formal training actually started when I was 5 years old. And in voice lessons, I would learn a little piano, a little theory. And of course, I was always in church choir growing up, from the little kids' church choir all to teenagers, the adults, all that stuff. And then in school, all through school, played saxophone.
And you're a true Austinite, yeah?
Austinite, yes. I'm an Austinite, a native Austinite. Played saxophone, alto sax in 6th grade through college, flute, and the bassoon for a couple of years in high school.
Mm.
So I mean, music has always been a part of my life.
Yeah.
Like that's always been the thing I knew I would do and how I would make my living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there like a real, very specific, I don't want to say cognitive switch, but you said that you were doing band, you were doing instrumental stuff, right? Bassoon, saxophone, flute. So did you feel like you were juggling those two and you just wanted one to be more in the forefront?
No, I didn't. When I was doing it, I never really felt like that. I mean, singing was first, and singing. Then I added the instruments, and it was just all part of music for me. It wasn't, and I didn't feel at that time I had to decide. I think the only time I made a conscious decision about, and I don't know if it was really a decision, but when I got to university, because I was a voice major at UT, I stopped playing my horn. And so I focused completely and solely on just the vocal aspect.
Yeah.
You know, I would pick the horn up every now and then just so I can see if I can still do it and play it. But I stopped competing. I didn't want to be in the Longhorn band.
Sure.
I didn't want to do marching band anymore because I did marching band. I mean, I loved marching band, but I was done with marching band, and I didn't want to do concert band because music, the voice, I was in two choirs, the chamber choir, and then I was in this 14 member a cappella pop choir.
Yeah.
So, you know, I went from choir from, what was it, 2 to 4 and then 4 to 6. So from 2 to 6, I think every Tuesday, Thursday, or was it Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Tuesday, Thursday, I think it was. I was singing all the time, you know? So I don't know. It's the thing that I knew in the beginning would be, but I didn't feel like I was like, okay, horn, I'm laying you to rest. It wasn't like closing this chapter. It just kind of went that way.
Just over time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so what you're saying is that if I called you and I said, hey, I've got this gig and I need you to play saxophone, you wouldn't come play saxophone for me?
No, I would sound like I'm in 6th grade all over again. I'm sure it's the shot to hell. You know, it would be like starting over.
Sure, of course. So then what did that look like after college? Because I think for people who are even at my age and my position, but especially about 3 years before my age right now, when they're going through like the latter half of college or graduating college, and they're like, okay, I just got a music degree, right? And now, world come find me, I just graduated, I'm a free agent, and I'm gonna get all the gigs. No, it doesn't happen like that. So what'd that look like for you?
Well, that started actually during college.
Yeah.
So like the pop choir I was in, the director of that choir, his name was Gary Powell, also lives in Austin, but he is a producer, composer, engineer, and at that time he was director of that choir. It's called Ensemble 109 because that's just how it was listed in the schedule, and that's the name of the group. It was kind of cool, right? And so, but no, I actually got my professional start as a session singer through him. So I was doing jingles and recording with Disney. That's where I started recording with Disney Records out of LA, because he was the one who had those projects. And so Disney Records would come to Austin to record at his studio. And he was the engineer, the writer and arranger, and he would hire the singers, and I was one of those singers. And then I was doing jingles. I did like a jingle for Franklin Savings, which is no longer around. Safeway back in the day in Dallas. But that's the little top two that stick out in my head. They were kind of national or statewide. But yeah, and then I was in a band on 6th Street. So I was in a 50s, 60s rock band called Hot Wax at Toulouse, which was a kind of New Orleans themed club. And we were the house band every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's where I was.
Wow.
And so, yeah, until 2 in the morning. So,
Mm.
yeah. So I was doing
So,
that already. So
until 2
uh,
a.m. What time do you start?
we started at, where we started? Was it 8, 7?
Ooh.
It was like maybe 3 set. Let's see. I can't remember. I can't remember what the breakdown was.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a long night. But
Yeah.
I was in my 20s. I was having fun.
Yeah.
It was great. And drinking those daiquiris and on stage. You can do that then when you're in your 20s. I can drink a daiquiri, a purple people eater, and then go sing my face off. And then wake up for a voice lesson at 10 the next morning and sound like a bird. I was like, not anymore. I'm like, okay, I need a few hours to come wake up, get a lot of water in me.
Right.
But yeah. But I remember those days.
That's when you drink a full glass of water and 3 Tylenol before bed.
Right.
You wake up and you're right as rain, good to go. Oh boy.
But yeah, so I was doing that while I was in college. So it was just for me, it was just a continuation of that, and that was kind of my focus. And with the record deals, I was like trying to be that recording artist and that pop star and blah 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 blah. Met those obstacles with you sound too much like this, you don't sound enough like this, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the biggest change that happened for me, and I think it's been the biggest thing that has kind of helped create or nurture the person you said you see on stage with the authenticity and the genuineness, and as you see me, was theater.
Yeah.
Theater came after college, and theater was something I never wanted to do. And people always freak out when I say that, because I'm not a theater person. Like, that's not my beginning. That wasn't ever my desire until after I started doing theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after I started doing theater, I fell in love with it. And one of the main reasons I fell in love with it was because I felt like who I was vocally, everything I was vocally, fit.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, because theater is not just one thing. It's like if I'm playing this character, then I put this on. If I'm doing this, and I put this on. And so I feel like all of who I was fit in this space, and so I fell in love with it, and I nurtured it, and I took acting classes and dance classes and did everything to be better at being on stage. And I think that's helped me a lot, because the storytelling that comes with acting and communicating with the audience and the emphasis on the text,
yeah,
made me that much stronger of a storyteller. And that's the thing that.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, before you even said the thing about the storytelling, I was gonna say that's very much the essence of what I think most people get when they see you, right? Is that like, and we've even had like informal conversations where we've like traded songs back and forth, right? And I've been like, oh man, I love that tune that you do, and you told me about it. And then you'd come to my gigs and you'd be like, what was that one song? And I remember one that I was like, oh, you should do this one. It's a really beautiful melody. It has this really nice jump that you can do at the end. And it was a standard. It was You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You. And you're like, oh, I love the tune, but I don't love to sing it because I don't love what it's saying. And that really hit me in a way, because because I mean, obviously, like, we all as singers, I should say should, maybe not we all do, but we should have the narrative in mind. And especially when memorizing lyrics, I mean, of course you have to have that narrative in mind, because if you're not, how are you gonna, keep it here?
Right.
But for you to say that you didn't want to sing a song, no matter the melody, but you didn't want to sing it because it didn't reflect a sentiment or a story or a narrative that you wanted to then, I guess, consciously inflict on your audiences, or even just
not inflict,
or inflict. Right. But no, I mean, it really hit something within me that I was like, wow, that's like quality control.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as a rule for me, if a song resonates within me and it moves me, then I know it's a song I can sing and move and be moving to the audience.
Sure.
and give them an emotional experience that is real and authentic and genuine. If I make a connection to whatever song I'm hearing, that I hear, and I'm like, oh, I want to sing that, then I know I can do the same thing, give that same type of experience. I mean, not the exact same experience, but the same type of experience to my audience.
Sure.
So I generally don't sing songs that I don't connect to.
Mm.
If I don't connect emotionally to it, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why sing it? Yeah.
Have you ever found that there's something that you didn't immediately connect to, but then by some way, which or the other, you
Yeah.
end up finding a way?
Yeah. I have.
I mean, this isn't like tell me the exact example, but do you have like one that you can think of? Or just an anecdote of why?
Well, the first song that popped in my head when you said that was Night and Day.
Mm.
Because when I first did that song, it was kind of filler. I got it because I needed some filler, and you know me, I love the ballads, and so I needed a little more up tempo.
Tread carefully, Kenny Williams. We're talking about Cole Porter here.
But it's like I wasn't crazy. I mean, not because I love the song.
Sure.
And then once I learned more about what the song was about, and then when I changed how I performed the song, change the style and put it in a place where I could connect to it, then it's not one of my favorite songs to sing.
Yeah. Do you do it where it's the alternation between Latin and swing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no. It depends on who I'm playing with, but it's mostly a bossa how I do it.
Okay. Yeah.
We pretty much keep that feel.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, I like this. So put me in a place that I love, which is like the beach.
Yeah. Well, the thing that we always say about Kenny Williams is some iteration of the King of Ballads or Ballad Central or
who says that?
I would never name names, Kenny Williams. I would never throw Ben Treesh under the bus. No, but and we say it with like the most love in our hearts because it's interesting. Ballads, I'm gonna put down my rye for this. Ballads are for a jam session, they're the kiss of death, right? Because usually like a singer just comes up and they're like, I want to do it at last, and it's like, buckle up, boys, here we go. But whenever somebody sings a ballad in a room, if it's like a steakhouse or it's something like that, sometimes, I would say more often than not, it can make the energy go here, right? It can just like completely fall. That's why people want, some swing. They want some stuff with a backbeat. They want, a variation. But you have a way of it's not that the energy all goes down. It's that the attention to anything else, it could be the Super Bowl, and the attention would go directly to you because of, you just have the most warm, velvet tone and sincerity of feeling and vocal delivery that people could listen to ballads all night long. And I think like you even probably do about like half ballads, maybe not quite half ballads in most of your sets. Mm-hmm. But it like you were saying about Night and Day, it's like, yeah, we kind of did it as filler. The opposite effect of that, nobody has a problem with you doing an abundance of ballads because it doesn't feel like filler. It feels like every single one was curated specifically for that audience and that night.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel like you're following a set list. It feels like you're saying, this is the only time that we're all going to be here together. This is the only time that we'll all ever be in the same room, probably ever again, from the waitstaff to the guests and me and this band. And so we're going to experience something together. But what's miraculous about your ability to do that is that you can do that in any given venue. And I've seen it happen.
Thank you.
And then everyone comes up and I think they're your friends because they're all over you. And it's just because they had such a visceral experience listening to you. Now, let me just get like a little dull pen, just pop that head right there because I
Oh no, I'm fine.
blowing it up. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. But no, I'm serious. I think that's that. If you had a superpower, and I think you do, I think that's it. You know, it's just that authentic, genuine type of feel. So, but anyways, I do want to, like, before, you know, jumping off on the tangent that we did, I do want to get into, because you kind of ushered in the, like, yeah, and then I like kind of gone into theater, and yes, like I want to know more about that. I want to know, did that start at the local level? Because obviously there is a point that we're going to get talking to where it was very much not at a local level, but I'll save that.
Yeah, it started here in Austin at Zach Theater. I remember one of the girls I used to sing with in the band I was telling you about at Toulouse.
Mm-hmm.
She has started doing shows, but she had a history of doing theater where she's from in Arkansas and even a little bit in Austin. And so she had done shows at Zach, and she was part of the whole Beehive fame here. And I'm not sure how long you've been around Austin to know that or not know that.
Sure.
But she was like, they're doing Once in This Island. That was a show. The Tony Award winning Once in This Island revival that just happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Amazing show.
I think I just saw they're doing if I'm not mistaken, I think they're going to do a Hamilton-esque thing where they're I think they filmed it like multicam and they might release it. Or
I would love that. Oh my God. I actually got to see it their closing weekend in New York last year when I went to New York for vacation. And so beautiful, just in tears, just from what I'm seeing visually. It's just amazing. But it was for the romantic male lead of Daniel. And so I'm like, I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to learn lines and dance and blocking. What is that? I said, and acting? What is that? I don't know. I said, I've never done that. I'm like, I had no desire whatsoever.
Sure.
But they wanted me because I could sing it. Because, you know, it's beautiful ballads and it's very romantic and emotional. And I was like, ah. And I was like, the day we were supposed to go in for the audition, like I was developing allergies at that time. And so I was like, I sounded horrible. And I didn't know the protocol. So I just didn't go. I just stayed at home. And the next thing I know, my phone's ringing. And I'm like, they're like, where are you? The general director of the theater was like, where are you? And I was like, I'm not feeling well. I don't sound great. I was like, I don't want to waste your time. And he's like, just get down here. And so I drove down to Zach and did my audition, sung the songs I prepared for the audition, for the director and for the general director. Mm. Then I go out in the hallway. They talk a little bit, and they come out and say, "Okay, you got the job." And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Okay, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Okay, now what?" I'm like, because I knew nothing of this process. I knew nothing. I was like, "Okay." I mean, there were many times I would be in the rehearsal room, and we'd be on a break. And I'd be in the corner eating a granola bar and a banana. And just a voice in my head would be like, just get your bag and leave and don't come back.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't do this. And I was like, oh my, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
Memorizing all the lines, the blocking, the dancing.
Choreography, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Not that I couldn't do the choreography. It's just like, it was just all of that coming at you at once. And I was like, oh my God. And then like the acting, I was like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
There were many times the lead, the girl playing Timoon, was like, he's giving me nothing. Because I was giving her nothing. Because I didn't know what to give her. Now, if it were a scene where we were singing and the dialogue was all in the song, I was fine. I knew what that was, to act through song. I'm just conveying emotion and telling the story. And I knew, you know, it was part of what I did in school, but for some reason I separated the two. I don't know why. I put acting, like speaking and talking and in this bubble by itself, and I made it so separate from what I was always doing in school, to where I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But then opening night happened and the show got going, and I just fell in love with it.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, so then I got into acting classes so I could understand what acting, apart from singing, was really about. And that's where I really learned a lot about, but the emphasis on the text and the importance of the text. And not that you didn't in singing, but it's different the way spoken word is emphasized versus singing. And just got dance classes, just got better at being on stage, and just fell in love with that art. And like I said before, fell in love with the fact that I fit in this space and in this arena. And I was like, okay. And then I set my sights on New York.
And
that happened a little quickly.
Not only did you set your sights on New York. Wait, so this was after, how many productions was this after that you went to New York?
I started that production was 93, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And then I did that. Buddy Holly's Story. Five Guys Named Mo. Probably the first Black Jinx in Forever Plaid. A show called Soul Sisters that was written for Judy Arnold and Laura Benedict, and Rod and myself were the male counterparts in that show. It was just a musical review. Then it was Dreamgirls. Then it was Nothing But the Blues, Something About the Blues, Some of the Blues, I can't remember. And then was that show. I want to say like 8 or 9 productions.
Okay.
Over the course of 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, over 5 years.
Mm.
Like probably 9 or 10 productions.
Yeah.
And then Rockin' Christmas Party. How can I forget that? When he put Rod and myself into Beehive and made this Christmas version, which played the Paramount every year. It's kind of like Christmas Carol is for us now.
Sure.
I was becoming. But then it was Rockin' Christmas Party, and it was every Christmas at the Paramount. People went crazy.
Yeah.
People still talk about that show now. They still want that show back. But I think kind of Christmas Carol is kind of replacing it in a way.
Yeah.
And so I left Austin in '97, and I went on the road with the musical Grease. That was my first national tour, and I actually flew to LA to audition for that, and got that and toured with that for almost a year, because I then got Smokey Joe's Cafe and toured with that for a year until '99, the summer of '99. And then I moved after we ended in Atlantic City. That contract was over in Atlantic City. I went to New York, stayed with a friend, and just kind of check out the city, and just kind of, I said, I want to be there for a while and just wake up every day and see what that feels like.
Sure.
And then I came home in September and packed all my stuff. Flew back. And I was there for 15 years. Yeah.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so and now I'm hearing the echo. Now I'm hearing. How am I hearing the echo now?
Oh, you hear it now?
I do.
I don't know. I'm starting to hear it too. It's like, why is it? I can take it off. Okay, now you're just coming on. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah.
I can hear you.
That's beautiful.
No echo, right?
No echo.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Is that gonna mess with your No?
No.
Well, I was gonna say whenever you were talking about all the different productions and you were recalling and who played who and like the year and everything, I was like, I've heard that red wine is really good for your memory, and maybe I should switch drinks right now because I've got a Cabernet on the other side of the room, so maybe I just switch courses a little bit.
Red wine and brown liquor, they're fine.
Yeah, right.
All dark.
Sure. Well, okay, so then you moved to New York, and you have these 2 traveling productions under your belt, and you have multiple local productions under your belt. So you know the ropes now. You know how this works, especially on a roadshow type situation. I mean, that's a whole nother ball game, I have to assume, from local productions, because your space is different every time. I mean, obviously you have the set that is loaded in to create that normalcy, but it's different, right? And you have all these other conditions. So then getting to New York, how long was it between touring production? Because I know a lot of people, you know, like a good friend of mine, Johnny Brantley III, went to New York after going to Texas State.
Johnny Brantley III.
Yeah, do you know Johnny?
No, I'm just the name,
Oh.
Johnny Brantley III.
And he always, he's like, hi, my name's Johnny Brantley III. Like, it's always like I think if there was anyone who could challenge the beauty and grace of Kenny Williams, it might be Johnny Brantley III. He is the most beautiful person. And anyways, he went up to New York and was doing a few things for, I don't know, it couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 months. And then he gets booked in Book of Mormon for the national touring cast.
Nice.
And then he does that for 12 to 15 months, something like that. And then he gets booked in the original Broadway cast of Beetlejuice, which I went and saw him in. And he obviously is just so incredible. But
that just opened, what, a year ago, 2 years ago?
And then it closed.
I know.
Yeah, because they kicked it out for
right?
Well, huh?
It was COVID, wasn't it?
No.
Oh.
So it was forced. It was going to be forced to close on June the 11th because the Winter Garden Theater was kicking it out so they could make room for they were kicking out a new original musical so they could usher in a revival, which, don't get me wrong, I love revivals, but why recycling the same things of The Music Man, which to me does not warrant that. And it gets worse. And I love this person as an actor, and this is the most charming, he's a very good looking man, but
who?
Hugh Jackman to star. Yeah. And I love
Professor Harold Hill?
Yes. And so they kicked it out, and there was a big hoo-ha about it. I mean, people were mad. And the thing was that Beetlejuice was breaking all of these records. I mean, right. Beetlejuice was just like, I mean, they had like something like 100 and some odd plus sold out performances in a row, you know, like it was insane. And I mean, after seeing it, it was immaculate. It was really great. But all that to say, you know, his relatively to some people who are in New York and try to go that route, it kind of fast tracked. So what did that look like for you once you got up there? Were you kind of doing the typical like temp thing by day and just going to auditions, or was it pretty instant for you to jump in?
Well, it wasn't instant. I jumped in the sense that as far as jumping into the whole scene of being part of that community and auditioning and
sure.
Because auditioning is a skill in of itself before you even get the job. So you like to audition well to get the work is something you got to work at. And so like I went to every audition I possibly could. But I had an agent. I was freelancing when I was there that summer before actually moving back. I was freelancing with a few agents. And then when I moved back, I actually picked one. But I had my equity card too, so I could still go to auditions on my own. But for me, like what I call my winter of New York, because I was like still living on unemployment from the tours until like February or March of 2000, and then I started temping, and so I did, and I had these amazing temp jobs, and I only temped from March to the end of May. Because I had a gig lined up at Alabama Shakespeare Festival to do Godspell in June. And so, and my first cruise ship contract after that.
You did a cruise thing. I didn't know that about you.
Well, that was part of I got that only because while I was doing all these auditions, like my agent went, if there's an audition that the part was right for me, but I really didn't want the show, I would just go so I can just keep those skills honed.
Sure.
And so that came up, and you know, they wanted a contemporary theater ballad and contemporary theater song up tempo and a pop ballad. And I was like, okay, I'll go. Why not? And I went, and they videotaped me and called the next day to my agent and said we want them, and And she's like, okay, this cruise ship wants to hire you. She's like, but I know nothing about negotiating a cruise ship contract. And I was like, should I even do it? And I was like, there's nothing on the books right now. There's nothing happening in the fall of 2000. So it's like, go make that money, come home, you know. I'm like, okay. So, but I called some friends who had done cruise ships, and I was like, okay, what do I ask for? But unbeknownst to me, that was already part of the package. It was already part of the track I was going into as a featured singer, what they call a boy one. And it was on the Voyager of the Seas at the time, which is the biggest ship in the world at that time.
Okay.
Royal Caribbean. I've only ever worked for Royal Caribbean, and so like they've been their production values, and because like I've always had this stigma about cruise ships. I'm just like, and singers on cruise ships. I'm just like, so I was a little leery. I was a little leery when I was like, what's it gonna be like? Oh,
sure. To add to that a little bit, Lydia's family, because our busy season, right, is like sometimes August or September to December. And in December, I mean, like usually every December, I don't know about you, but I'm doing like 30 to 35 performances, right? Where it's like doubling up, multiple a day. And then they had planned this thing and just told me in like November, and they were like, hey, we're going on this family vacation and we're going to take you with us on a cruise.
You're coming.
Right. And they were like, as soon as it was like January 6th, they were like, as soon as your busy season is done, we're going to take you on this cruise so that way you can, because they knew I was a workaholic and they knew that they wanted to force me. They specifically, it was calculated. They specifically did not buy the internet package, so I couldn't check my email.
Good.
Unbeknownst to them, there was Wi-Fi at the port, so hello. But anyways, and so I get on the cruise ship, and I brought my real book with me so I could at least learn tunes, and they didn't know that. They found it in the bottom of my suitcase. And then I read like the different entertainment things that were going to be happening, and I'm a snob, I'll say it. But I read the different things, and it was like, oh, jazz, like cocktail happy hour at whatever time. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to go get an old fashioned. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy like a jazz combo. Surely who they hired for this thing is a deserving person. And I remember sitting there and they started playing Ciora. Boop, 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 wow. But it was like dun 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 do 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 do. It felt like a march, and I think before they finished the 45-second head, I finished my old fashioned. I was like, it's not only vacation away from work, it is now hell, but so anyways, continue your.
That is hilarious. Where was I? Oh my God.
You were at cruise ships and you were leery and you were one. And
so I asked my friends and so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I had a really great time. The production, some of it, it's very cheesy. I don't know if you saw any of the production shows you were there, but it can be very cheesy. But I had a lot of fun. I was just like, I'm doing what I love, and I'm just traveling and seeing the world. And I was like, okay, this was kind of fun. I was like, we lived for Fridays in Cozumel. That was amazing. And just met some amazing people. I remember meeting Ben Vereen and singing with him. Especially the headliners that came on the ship. I met some pretty cool people.
Well, back up. Hold on. So Ben Vereen, what was he doing on the ship?
He was doing his headliner show. And so he was the headliner for that week. And he saw our show, and he would always pick singers to sing background for him. And so I was like, me and the other girl did backgrounds for him on his show. And then he invited me out to the front of the stage with him. I forgot what song we were singing. I forgot what song he was singing, and he said, grab your mic, and I just went out and just want me to just go off.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God. And that always stresses me out. Of course, I couldn't say no.
Sure. It's been
okay. I'm on stage, and Ben's like, come on out here, Kenny. And I was like, oh God.
But go ahead.
No, Ben's really, I mean, he's really cool like that. And it's just like, so like to get to know him there and we exchanged numbers and like, I had this black dress shirt that he gave me that was amazingly tailored and I still have it in my closet. I can't wear it right now, but that COVID-19, I can't wear it right now. But I mean, he was just, and cause like he's one of those people that I've been compared to since the moment I set foot on stage and started doing theater, dancing and singing, and the way we smile when we dance, when we sing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like people are like, oh my God, you look, I mean, I've been told that all my life, well, not all my life, all my musical theater life, that I remind people of Ben Vereen. And so when I got a picture of him finally, and I was like, okay, I can see it. Because first I couldn't really see it, but we took a picture on that cruise. And I was like, oh my God, okay. I kind of see it a little bit. It's all about the shape of our smile. And
sure.
But he was just, it was just amazing. We stayed in touch for years. I haven't talked to him in a long time. But since I left New York, I haven't really talked to him. But that was really exciting. That was probably one of the most exciting parts about being on the cruise, the people I would meet. But it was fun. I did it. Then I came back home, and then September 11th happened, and then I was off on the regional production in Wichita, Kansas, of Smokey Joe's Cafe, and then while there, I got the call. Before I left town, I auditioned for the Gazelle tour of Lion King. So I got the call when I was doing the show in Wichita, but I did not get this Gazelle tour. And then it's funny, the same day, right after that call, I got a call from Royal Caribbean asking me if I wanted to come back out to do another contract. And I was like, well, everything in New York is shutting down. It was kind of like now, but that only lasted like maybe 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks.
Sure.
But it was like in that moment of September 11th happening, the city just shut down. It was a ghost town.
Right.
And that was so surreal. That was my first time seeing that city like that. So when I would see pictures of the city with COVID now and the streets are empty, like I thought, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was exactly how September 11th was. People just like were so stunned and afraid that they just stayed at home. You know, you didn't have to force them.
Yeah.
They just stayed at home. And I lived in Brooklyn, so we actually, for a week, we had no train service. And so.
Oh, really? MTA stops too?
I couldn't go across the bridge. So yeah, I was stuck in Brooklyn for a week. Because I remember going back into the city after that week. And my excuse was because I had to return a video to Blockbuster because it was that one Blockbuster that was on 8th Avenue and 54th. And I would when I was in the city auditioning or whatever, I rented a movie and I was like, late fees, but they didn't charge me late fees.
Yeah, I was about to say,
right.
Like in the midst of a national tragedy, Blockbuster's like, well,
you have those late fees. No, so I used that as my excuse to go back to the city to return this movie. And they opened the A train up because the A train went under World Trade Center. And so we went through that stop. Wow. And it was like, the train was going like just deathly slow as it went through World Trade Center. And it was like looking at ruins. It was like going like, it was crazy how everything had collapsed. And I was like, maybe we shouldn't go that slow through here in case something falls again.
Oh, sure.
Like, let's get out. And I was like, but it was so surreal. But so then like I went back out on the cruise ship. And while I was on the cruise ship, my agent emailed me and was like, they want to see you again for Lion King. So they know where you are. They know you're on a cruise ship and I'm like, because once you're out there, you're out there. There's no
sure.
flying back and forth. You're kind of separated and detached. But they made it happen for me with my cast members. And I, by the grace of God, found like cheap tickets, round trip, because you need to buy a round trip because it's cheaper. But cheap tickets the day before, within 24 hours to get me from Miami to New York and then back from New York to Jamaica to meet the ship on Wednesday because I had to do the show on Thursday. And my audition was on Tuesday. But it all worked out. And so when I left that contract in April, I started rehearsals for Lion King May 28th, 2002.
Mm. I love so much that you remember the date. I mean, it's just so like maybe
Oh,
it's
that's a date. I'll never forget that date.
yeah, maybe it's just the sentimental part of me that just thinks that's so
Yeah,
beautiful. But I mean,
it
just
is.
yeah, it is. Yeah, because it in
Yeah.
in a way, I mean, obviously, I never and will likely be never be because of the position of the entertainment industry that I'm in, have been on Broadway. But I have to assume, and this is not at all to negate, and you can surely negate my thought here, but not to negate all of the things that you had done before. But I have to assume that it might not feel like, oh, this is when my career starts necessarily, but it is
Oh
such
no.
a huge milestone
Yeah.
that you can't help but think, oh, this is something I'm going to remember 18 years later.
Well, I mean, it's Broadway. It's the
Yeah,
pinnacle.
right, right.
New York is the epicenter of theater. New York is the epicenter, but at the same time, it's just another region like anywhere else. You
Yeah,
have, like, I went to New York years before I moved there, like in '95, to visit my best friend who had moved there from Austin. I met here in Austin, but he moved to New York. And while I was there, I just happened to bring my book. I said, I may audition. You never know. And so I brought it with me just in case. So I was like, I want to check out the lay of the land and see how I fare. Because, 'cause people think it's New York. Everybody's got to be crazy talented.
sure.
And I went to auditions. I went to Rent. That's when Rent was really hot at the time. I went to the Rent auditions, and I went to one of those first Broadway revivals of Dreamgirls because I played Cece here in Austin.
Sure.
And so I went, and I would listen at the door. I was nosy. I was like, I wanted to hear. I said, I want to hear what people sound like. And like anywhere else, if there were 300 people auditioning, 250 probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked by what I heard. And I was like, oh, like, oh my God. I was like, girl, what are you doing? And that shocked me because like everyone thinks it's New York, so everybody's got to be just crazy talented. There's a
Sure.
lot that's bad.
Well, and like, and not at all. I mean, I'm certainly not taking shots at anybody in Austin because the people who are working are certainly qualified to be working, obviously, because they're the ones who are working. But that's exactly the kind of mindset that I had coming, because I mean, like, I've busted my ass in the shed, not only in like the last year of high school, but the first year that I had gotten up here relatively to the San Marcos, Austin area.
Yeah.
And I was like, surely I'll never break in until like 4 or 5 years from now. I'll never have a gig because it's Austin, right? It's like for small town kid. Well, I mean, 28,000 people, small town, right?
Small town.
But not like 2,000 people, middle of nowhere, Texas town. But still, relatively small town, me, Christian, in Lake Jackson, going to Austin, the capital of Texas, like where everybody's like, oh, Austin's the, live music capital.
Well, there was some major talent here. I mean, growing up on 6th Street, I grew up on, when you go on a Steamboat and see Steve Ray Vaughan any given night of the week.
Oh,
or,
sure.
Willie Nelson. I mean, that stuff happened all the time.
Sure.
And it's amazing talent. So like, because of that, I'm just not that easily impressed. So I'm like, I grew up around great talent. So New York, after going through that experience, it took away anything that scared me about that. I was just like, okay, you're just like everybody else.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, is that you feel, or you feel so deeply that everyone is going to be so amazing that it is going to be just like almost like splitting hairs, right? Like who might get the part. But there are a ton of people that have talent, albeit maybe raw, right? Where they have some assimilation of somebody told them, hey, you can do this. And they were able to get enough work to pay the rent. And then you have the people who really have that kind of quality that's like, oh, this is the person that, and it doesn't mean those people who are at that lower level can't get there. It just means that there are a less abundant amount of people than we think that have that, like, oh, I'm ready to be competitive, rather than I could fit the bill if they needed, like just
Right.
that kind of extent.
And,
So
and having that decision to be competitive, I mean, that's really on that person. If they're making a decision to be competitive and then doing what it takes to be competitive. So if that means that you have to get in some voice lessons and get better at what you want to do, then you do that to get competitive.
Oh, sure. I just meant like the talent in that that stage was competitive by nature. But yes, you're right. I mean, that's the thing that separates a lot of us, just in whatever instrument discipline that you're in, is your hustle, right? I mean, that's almost more important. You'll see people who hustle harder, who have less talent, but they hustle harder than the people who have more talent but are more complacent because they feel like the job should just come to them. You're going to see that person with the hustle get more of those parts because of the fact that they told us whenever I went to Texas State, they told us, on the very first day, they said, look to your left, look to your right. There's 50 of you in the room. 15 of you are going to make it to graduation day. And we were like, like everybody told us, oh, college, like you're going to go and you got accepted in this music school and they only accept X amount of students, you're going to succeed. And then the first day that you're there in the height of what you think you've just accomplished, they say that less than 20% of you, 25% of you are going to make it. And sure enough, I remember looking left to right before we took our seats at graduation, and I counted about 12 to 15 people. And it was wild. I mean, it wasn't like a scare tactic to get us to work harder. So you're right. It's like, you'll weed out those people by their work ethic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, so then amazing. May 28th, 2002.
Mm-hmm.
What have I been drinking? Red wine. Now I can remember things well. May 28th. So then you started Lion King, and
I started rehearsals. I should remember the day I went to the show, but it was a month later. But it's so funny because it didn't really hit me because it was still so surreal, and so it didn't really hit me that I was actually making my Broadway debut because there was so much to learn. There was so much to learn. Oh my God. And costume fitting. Because like when you come to the show, every costume you have in that show is made specifically for your body. Like is designed for you. So I have a whole set of costumes right now still in New York City that have my name in them that were designed for me. And so whenever somebody new comes in, I was like, can I take those with me? I was like, oh my God.
That's when you cross your leg and you sit back and you have a my name's on this.
It's like, oh my God. And it wasn't until I think the weekend of my first week in the show, I think it was probably a Saturday matinee or Sunday matinee. I want to say I think it was Saturday. That I'm in Circle of Life, the opening scene, I'm the head of the rhino. So I'm the head of the rhino, then my friend Ron was the butt of the rhino. And we're walking down the aisle and we just little, the head, you got to do your head and do other stuff, but you also sing at the same time. And so we're coming down the aisle, and it just it hit me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on Broadway in The Lion King. And I just started crying. I was just trying to sing and cry, and just bawling. Just like you would think, my eyes were just opened. I was like, because by that time I was thinking like, okay, I gotta get to that number. I went up the stairs. I could do this with my head. I could do this one, get to the top of the stairs. I mean, I wasn't thinking about all that stuff because it was in my body. Yeah. I had a moment to go, look where you are, fool. And it's like, oh my God. And I just I was just bawling. That 8.5 years later. Yeah.
Kenny, and maybe it's the beauty of the aged 12-year whistle pig, but it just makes me want to cry listening to you. And if I wasn't in this show, it's like a happy cry because I don't know. This is where it stops becoming me being like, and I was never trying to be superficial with the host thing or on any episode. I mean, this is very relaxed, but just from on a very personal level, me to you, it just, from the very first moment I heard you, I remember Candy was like, yeah, you got to come down. Art's playing with this really great singer, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't come for like 3 weeks after Ruth's Chris, because I was like, I don't know if I want to like go watch another singer. And I come in and I see Art, and he and I, looks back and forth, and I grab I think I was drinking White Russians at that time. Like
God.
Like the little child that I was, drinking alcoholic chocolate milk.
White Russian, a cream drink? Oh.
But I sat down, and you sang Human Nature, and I was like, oh my God, this is real deal. And then you sang Fields of Gold, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then you sang For All We Know, and it was just,
you cried.
It was just tears. And I think you had kind of acknowledged me because Art had maybe said or something to that effect. And I was trying not to let you see, but it's just, you're the most beautiful person. You're the most beautiful person I've ever met, Kenny. And just to hear that story of I mean, you're just, not to overuse the word genuine and about your Lion King experience, but it just, hearing that realization of like, okay, now I don't have to focus on all of like the obviously you have to focus on the analytics, right? Of everything you're doing and be on your game, because you are literally at the height of that craft. But to hear that you were able to kind of let yourself go on autopilot, at least to a certain degree, to realize where you were, it is the essence of you and your person and who you have taught me to be. I mean, I always think of you as a friend, but in more ways than one, you've been a mentor to me as well, in ways that maybe I did not want at first, because I would like, you would come to Ruth's Chris and you would sit at the bar, you'd sit at that corner bar table. Just so you could have enough, and I would go up to you on the break and I'd be like, Kenny Williams, and we'd hug, and we would already known each other at that point. And you were like, oh my God, I love when you did In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning, but what were you doing on this tune? It didn't feel like you weren't, and I was like, who the is this guy coming to my gig in the middle of a set? Yeah, well, but it wasn't, but it didn't feel critical. It felt like you cared about me, and you had recognized something that you enjoyed, that you were like, well, why and rightfully so, not that I did this intentionally, it was just part of that growth period. It felt like you were like, oh, you gave me something so beautiful, and then in the next tune I don't want to be as egregious to say you robbed me of, like you saying that to me, but it felt like maybe I was robbing you of the same genuineness in maybe a swing tune that I'd given you in a ballad. But that gave me a nice, hearty, full slice of humble pie that,
I wasn't being an ass though. I'm like, that's kind of.
No, you were not being an ass, but us singers, we are, any criticism, we're like, hello,
right?
But come again. Sorry, let me get my trusty Q-tip out and make sure I heard that. But no, anyway, I'll tell you how much you mean to me off camera in a little bit. I want to keep going. So then that was 8.5 years. That was 8.5 years.
Not in that time, because Lion King is considered a government job on Broadway because it's not going anywhere. It just celebrated 22 years.
Wow.
So they're almost reaching the little Cats anniversary.
But Chicago, right? Chicago's been on for a long time too.
Yeah, they have. I thought Cats was the longest. Maybe Chicago.
Maybe not. I'm not saying Chicago is the longest. I'm just saying every time I'm there, and every
But
time.
Lion King is getting up there because they're not, and like they have the money because it's Disney to sit through COVID and then come back when everything opens back up.
Rest in peace, Frozen, though.
Right.
Frozen
I
is Disney.
know.
Closed that, yeah.
They closed it. But Lion King's the moneymaker. That show, because recycling for generation to generation, and the cartoon that helps, then the movie helps, and so it's like it just brings a new group of people into that show constantly.
No, it's Elton John and
it's Elton John
and
Tim Wright.
Yeah.
I should know this. Oh my God! I went to the 20th anniversary 2 years ago, and Elton John performed.
Ooh.
And like after the show, he comes up on stage, and the people they did a special private showing of the show just for us. That was, oh my God, that was a thrill a minute, because, and also a little frustrating because you have an audience full of the superstars and everybody who's been in that show from Africa to Los Angeles.
Sure.
And we're in the audience. And so, of course, you're going to sing along with everything that happens.
Sure.
But there's that delay because what happens on stage, and by the time people back here, I was like, oh God, y'all shut up. It was a lot. So finally I had to be quiet. But but the energy was just like explosive. It was like, oh my God. But oh my God. But
you almost don't care. At that point, it's less about the show because you've performed it a million times. So it's about the community aspect of like, we all did this, and now it's a party. Yeah. It's not a show, it's a party.
Yeah. But so being in that show, like, they would let you go do other things because they're like, as long as we can cover you, then you can take a leave of absence and go do another show. So like I like for 2 months, I did, was it about 2 months? Yeah, about 2 months. I did this revival of Pearly at New York City Encores with Blair Underwood and Anika Noni Rose. But that was in the city. Mm-hmm. I actually went on tour with the Lion King. I took over the role. I also covered the high antelope and the low antelope. In Circle of Life, you have Rafiki's voice, and you have the two male voices you hear with her call and response. I took over the role of the high antelope on the tour for 6 months. And so that was amazing.
Yeah.
I went to Atlanta in 2004, and I did to do the premiere of Color Purple before we went to Broadway. So I was in the summer for 3 months in Atlanta, and that was an amazing experience. For one, it was a Color Purple, but to be in that process at the inception of a show and to see it come to life and be created, like that was an experience like none other. Because we would go in every day, and if they didn't like something, like we would come back the next day and there's a whole new set of music for the first act.
Oh, wow.
And so like Brenda Russell, who the song? So I almost start naming names so I forget people. Allie Willits, Brenda Russell, and Steven, I forgot Steven's last name. But they would sit up all night and write brand new songs. I'm like, now you've been working on this project for the past so many years. How do you still have new lyrics and melodies in your head? Like you would think you would have exhausted all of that by now.
Yeah.
But they come in and give us whole new books of music. And it's even better than what it was the day before. And it's like, what? It just blew my mind. And so that was an amazing experience. But when it went back to Broadway, like the track that only one part, the handyman at the end of the show that was part of my track was actually left in the show. The rest had been cut and the show had been changed around and became a musical. Where before we treated it more like a play with music because it was about the relationship with those people and the heart of that story and Celie's journey to freedom. But then it just sung and danced, and I was like, oh. I would. Now the revival that just happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Did you see it with Cynthia Erivo?
Yeah, amazing. Oh my God, that's what it should have been the first time. Minimalist, keep it about those characters and their journeys and they're in robes of Sealy, and oh my God, it was amazing. It was, I was like in a theater, just ugly crying, head and hands, just crying. Because it was just that emotionally moving with just people standing there acting and singing. It was incredible. Yeah. But yeah, so I was able to do other stuff. And so it, broke the monotony, which is really nice. But that community, the Broadway community, is an amazing community of people and talent. And I miss it sometimes. And I would go back. I wouldn't just move back to New York, but I would go back if the right opportunity presented itself.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so what was that? Because in the same way that you had said that you did, you welcomed the break, the forced vacation that we had of COVID. I mean, how did that feel like coming back, and what was that? I mean, because you're essentially living in paradise, but paradise is really only paradise if it's in smaller increments, right? Unless it's just, that it's like, oh, this just feels like home and I never want to leave. But after 8.5 years, I mean, everybody likes to move and change scenery a little bit. So what was that decision like where you wanted to leave, or maybe not wanted to leave, but you felt like it was the right thing to do? And did you have those withdrawals, or did you feel like it was the breath of fresh air that you needed to come back here to home, Austin?
No withdrawals. I mean, I got that first unction that I was done with living in New York City, because but before leaving the show and actually leaving New York City, I would notice I had little, kind of periods of like, I'm not being happy, and I was like, what? That's kind of crazy. I'm in New York City. I'm in Lion King. Why would I not be happy?
Sure.
And so I remember like, I got that kind of unction in my spirit about like that I was done with New York City before being done with the show, done with living in New York City. And I was like, what? No, that can't be. Because I knew that that's where I was meant to be. And there was, purpose there, and purpose had been fulfilled, and maybe there's still more, or maybe there wasn't. I don't know. But I was like, I don't believe it. And so I was like, if I get this feeling 3 times, I'll listen. So I wrote it, and so every time I got it, I wrote it in my journal. And so the first time I wrote it in my journal, and I think about it, another year went by, and it would just happen in a moment, like riding on the train or walking down the street. Or like, it can be one of those where it's not an Indian summer and it turns cold quick, and you feel that fall breeze blow through. I'm like, well, I know I was sick of the cold weather, that's for sure. I was like, oh God, I was done with snowstorms.
Yeah.
Loved it when I first moved there, because what I didn't get growing up here.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Hot as hell.
But I love the heat though.
Yeah.
I love the heat.
But it was probably less hot, not to throw a political thing in the fire necessarily.
Well, it was no, but like August in New York was like the hottest month of the summer, and that was still only 95, maybe 100 every now and then. Yeah. And I was like, this is nothing, y'all. Here it's 3 digits May 1st. And it's like, it stays that way for the most part.
Yeah.
And so then I got it the second time, wrote it in my journal. So I was like, all right. I said, okay, God, I'll listen. If I get this a third time, I'll listen. And third time came around, and I was like, all right. And by that time, no, I left Lion King. I actually went back to, because it was this time. Because by that time, because I skipped over a little section of epiphany of my life. When I went out on tour with the Lion King, a lot of the reason why I went on tour was because I was having this moment of feeling unheard and invisible. And so when I took over the role of the High Antelope, that gave me visibility. I opened the second act with the solo. I'm the second voice you hear after Rafiki at the top of the number, because I'm the top antelope.
Sure.
So I'm coming up out of a crouched position with a high C. That's the first out of my mouth. And I'm like, where's this? With like horns on my head, and wearing a diaper with sticks in my hand. So it's like, and it was on the road that I kind of reconnected, because I was kind of reconnected with myself as a solo artist and a singer. And I was like, because it was one of those days I was riding to work on the train, and I was like, it was a great day. I was in a great mood. I just heard this voice that said, "You're making your living the way you always." It's like you're making your living at what you love to do, but not in the way you thought you would. And I was like, I'm not.
Would you say that that's from a perspective of, and I don't think anyone could ever describe you or even give you the attribute of being selfish. Never. But would you?
No.
But would you say that that's from a position of like, I want to do the thing that I want to do rather than singing someone else's thing?
Because like I said, I at that time when that happened, I wasn't feeling any certain way. It was a beautiful day and it was wonderful, and I was happy, and I was like actually having a moment of gratitude when then that thought came. I think it was just the gateway to something new.
Sure.
And opening, and I'm like, okay, because not like I wasn't singing, I just wasn't doing anything. I was like, and like I said, feeling invisible and unheard for my solo efforts. I'm in this great show, these amazing singers, and I love it. But I said, do people even know what I can do? I said, no, they don't. And so that's kind of where my journey back to myself as a solo artist and a performer and a vocalist began.
Well, I'm curious if that was reflected in that you wanted a change of scenery of material. Maybe not specifically like I want to get away from Lion King.
No, that was probably part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Even though Lion King was pop, I mean, it was like
sure.
But no, I would for its time there. Like I started singing background with this singer named Chester Gregory, and I would be, and I started doing solo work. I started working my first EP, which got recorded, but there are a couple of tracks I still need to lay the vocals on, but it never got finished. I still might finish it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not in that space right now with those songs, so I don't know. I may have to revamp them or re-record them, because like how I felt them then is not how I feel them now.
Sure. Now, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But like there is a part of me, right, with the second album that we had known each other at this point that I had done, and if you listen to the third album that just came out and you listen to the second album that I put out 3 years ago.
Was that 3 years ago for the second?
It was 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies when you're in quarantine. I was like, well, maybe one day, because, I talked to Charlie Kramsky, my engineer, and I was like, hey, do you still have the files? And because he's done all of my, well, I guess my one subsequent record, but is my preferred person. We'll do many, many more. We're already working on the next one. So, I had asked him, I said, hey, do you still have all of the files? Because I was like, I believe in the arrangements. I think they're beautiful. I think everything that was going on was beautiful. And you even gave me input. Like you told me, like, didn't tell me, you would never dictate it for me, but you gave me very clear advice of what spoke to you. And that informed which takes that I put on the second album. But I said, I just hate the way that I sound. It's very dark. It's very far back. It's very still classical. It's not me now. And I remember one night in bed talking to Lydia, and she was like, Christian, no, like, don't go back and re-record, your vocals on that, because it shouldn't be that everything should sound crystal clear and perfect. It's that you should hear the progression of 2015 with your first, 2017 with your second, 2020, 2021 with the next one. And so, obviously you do what you want to do with your EP. It is your artistic statement, but I would say it might almost be exciting for you to release them as is and say, hey, you know what I'm at now because you hear me at Parker and you hear Kenny Williams Sings, which, by the way, is a really great record, and everybody should go buy a physical copy right now and Spotify and support it. A shameless plug. But it's like, what this was, but if you want to hear where I was too, because we don't have that from where you were.
Right.
And I know that me, selfishly, I'm like, shit, I want to hear that. I want to hear
Right.
I want to hear you at where you recorded that. This was all a sidebar. Let's go back. So coming back to Austin.
So it's like, so what?
I was just saying. So let's go back. Coming back to Austin. Tell me about all of that.
Okay. And so that's what started off. That's what that whole journey back to myself as a solo artist. But this time around, I didn't make the decision to just totally cut off theater. I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I've done that before in the past, where I feel like I have to decide between one or the other. I was like, I'm just going to focus more on this.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick and choose theater, and I'm not going to let that be the sole focus like it's been for the past 25 years. Sure. Like that's been people always laugh, like that's been your day job for 25 years. I was like, right? So then I had a time where I would like leave Lion King and go to a club, and sing, be it with somebody else or myself.
What's the big club that all the Broadway stars go and perform at? It's like it's a street number. It's like
now or then?
Now. It may be the same.
You mean 54 Below?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is
that's the old. I think that's the old Studio 54 space that they made it, and that's why it's called 54 Below or something like that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
But there's the Duplex. There's the Triad. There's like my first concert in New York, I just found a space that I liked, and I was like, can this support live music? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I did it. And this little Moroccan lounge, and it was amazing. I kind of transferred the room into what I wanted. And I still haven't done that in Austin yet. And that's on my list of things to do. Because I just got here and started gigging and working, but I haven't done, in New York, people put on I want to do a show. People do shows all the time. Yeah. And I'm like, I haven't done that yet. I'm like, why haven't I done it?
I feel like the perfect place for you to do that would probably be the Townsend, right?
Well, it's closed.
Oh, well, I mean, outside of COVID.
But no, it's closed. The Townsend is no more.
Oh, it's no more? When did that happen?
Oh, a month ago, 2 months ago? Yeah, they got hit hard and they closed permanently.
Shit, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, no, that's one of the first places I looked at when I moved back to Austin. I mean, I have a few places in mind. Because I like finding a space and making it fit what I'm doing for the evening.
Were you doing that on Mondays, on your off day?
I did it on Monday, I'm off day, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, with most of my friends being in theater, if I want anyone to come, it's got to be on a Monday. Yeah. If I did it on a weekend, it competes with too much. And plus, then I have a show,
Sure.
So yeah, it was a Monday, or I could have done a Sunday night, but people are usually tired in the week.
Yeah.
And so it was a Monday, and everybody showed up, and it was the most amazing night. Oh my God,
love it. Did you see? Before COVID, did you get a chance to see Hadestown?
I did not, and I wanted to so bad.
Kenny, me and you, we gotta go as soon as this opens, because spring will come.
Okay, if they were open, I would love to.
Oh my God, I went on the recommendation of my friend. I went in for Jazz Congress in January.
Yeah.
And I got there Saturday morning. I took not the red eye, but the early morning, 5 a.m. flight. Mm-hmm. And I got up there and just hit it hard. And I was like, all right, let's go get some pizza. And let's decide over pizza where we're going to go. Because she lived on my friend lived on 25th and 8th. So it was or 25th and 7th or whatever it was. So it was right there. I mean, she works for Google. So she was right there by the Google building that's right there. And I can't, is that Chelsea?
25th and 8th, yes, that'd be Chelsea. That would be Chelsea.
Yeah. So it was nothing. I mean, we walked 15 blocks north. We ate at this pizza place, and me and her brother, or not brother, not brother, boyfriend, works at doing a thing for works at UBS. So he couldn't go because he had to work on things, because people on Wall Street have to always work on things relentlessly.
Right.
But
I had a temp job on Wall Street. I was a receptionist on Wall Street for a month. Yeah, that was my last temp job ever.
Wow. Was it
fun though? Yeah.
All right. But we were sitting there and we were having the pizza, and he was like, "You need to go to Hadestown." He's like, "We've already seen it 4 times, and Mina, my friend, you need to go to Hadestown." Yeah. And they were like, "Whatever amount." And he was like, "Look, I will pay for your ticket, and you can pay me back in whatever increments over the entirety of our life. I don't care. I will pay for you to go to Hadestown." And I was like, "No, man, we'll figure it out." And I wanted to see, because who was it? Jeff Daniels was in To Kill a Mockingbird. And I wanted to see To Kill a Mockingbird, but obviously that had been sold out for months. And it was like, the classic, soundbite of like the 40s music of silent, or 30s of silent films, where people are running around. It sounds all hectic. We were running around Times Square, looking to all these different places, seeing what everything cost. And finally it was like, okay, I'll go see Hadestown, which I didn't know anything about the music, but I love the story of Eurydice.
Yeah, it's an original musical, but it's based on Euripides.
Eurydice and Orpheus, which obviously I studied. Thank you, Whistle Pig, 12-year ride. But I had studied in college because I was an studies major, right, with an education cert. So I was like, okay, fine, we'll go see it. And we ended up buying tickets at the last minute, literally 1 minute until showtime. And it was the 4th row, and it was like $200 and some odd for a ticket. But I was like, you know what? I was like, whatever. I'm here for it. And no one said a word. It had been 10 seconds, and watching Andre DeShields.
Oh yeah.
Just with the most grace that you have ever seen in your life. Great. I was like, okay, $200 just for those 10 seconds. That's fine. Everything else is a bonus. And I died. It was.
I hate I missed it because I want to see him, and I have a friend offer who was in it, and I was like, oh my god! And plus, once I found out it was about that myth, I was like, oh, I love that because I love mythology. I would love to see that. And I heard the music was really great.
It's really, really great. And Eva Noblezada, who is the she's they call her Eurydice, I guess in the 17th, 18th century opera it's Eurydice, but Eurydice is how they pronounce her name. She's just she's just.
Yeah,
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a really great music. We have to go see it together. Nothing would make me happier than going to New York City with Kenny Williams, just spending a weekend.
My god!
Yeah.
I went back not this past January, but going into 19. I went there for New Year's Eve, and I spent a week. And that was my first time back in the city for that amount of time since I left.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to go somewhere I didn't have to be a tourist. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why am I going somewhere cold for vacation? I was like, that makes no sense. But I mean, I had so much fun. I stayed at my friend's condo in Harlem, and he was in Miami. I was like, I should be in Miami, not in New York. I was like, it was great because like just to be in the city and to not have to go anywhere if I didn't want to, because I know what's out there. I'm not missing anything, But I had tickets scheduled. That's when I saw Gretchen Parlato at what did I tell you I saw her?
I can't remember where you told me you saw her, but you had asked her. I think you told me that why she had taken such a hiatus, and you said
she had a kid.
Right?
She has a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But her album was supposed to be out by, she was the standard. Her album was supposed to be out by now. And I was like, girl, because she performed most songs from the new album. And I was like, it's going to be great. Oh my God. But I don't know where it is. You know how this goes.
Waiting for the right time. Man, I have to, I'll make it very brief, but I have to tell you a quick story about, I don't know if I ever told you this. And was this, I guess this wasn't my most recent trip. This must have been the trip before in
when you went to see
2019. I was seeing, it was the trip before. It was whenever I was seeing Surreal MA. And she's just she's amazing. And the thing about that was so amazing was I get there early, and me and my friend Joy, who teaches dance and does some acting stuff up in New York, she came to meet me. She's my best friend's older sister that grew up down the street from me in Lake Jackson, and she anyway, she came and met me, and we got there early, and we sat down in front in the very front table. And this table next to us had been reserved. And about 10 minutes before showtime, the person walks up, and I'm like, I know that person. I was like, I know who that person is, but I'm not going to be weird about it. And he comes by and makes eye contact with me, and he's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm doing great. How are you? And, we chat a little bit about, how excited we are to see the show. And then I let him talk to his, person he brought with him. And Joy, to my right, is like, whispers in my ear. She's like, who is that? She was like, I know that person. I was like, I know that person too. I don't know. And she was like, it's not George Lucas. She was like, and I was like, no, it's not George Lucas. I was like, plus, I don't think George Lucas would be caught in a jazz bar. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Why?
But I don't know. And the whole time we're trying to figure out. And the show that Surreal was doing was for her new album, which was all based on the music of Stephen Sondheim. It's called Moving On, as Stephen Sondheim.
I have it.
Amazing record. And it's so beautiful. And the show ends, and we're all just, and she goes around and talks to a few people. And I'm like, and she can't stay because she's got work in the morning, but I'm on vacation. So I was like, I think I'm going to stay for the next set. I'm just going to stay here in my seat. And
you told me this. And
then,
yes,
as she's like, but I'll have a drink with you until the set starts, and then I'll leave. And I was like, okay. And we're still trying to figure out who this guy is. And then Surreal comes up to me and kneels down on one knee. And I'm like, but surely she wasn't going to talk to me. She turns over to him and she goes, don't cry. That's the first thing she says to him. And he says to her, you made me feel like a composer for the first night in my life. And I realize instantly it's Stephen Sondheim.
Yes.
And I don't, when people say they're paralyzed.
Right.
I was paralyzed. Because obviously Sunday in the Park with George, Sweeney Todd, just.
Right.
What do you do when the person who has, single-handedly, not to downplay other people, single-handedly changed modern musical theater. I mean, is sitting right next to you. I mean, it's a household name that has now become personified in real life as a person. I mean, holy hell, So, but anyways, I can't remember why I got on that. But
we were talking about who we saw in New York and Gretchen at the Standard and
Yeah.
But
we are just two little chatterboxes. We've been talking for a long time.
That's not too bad.
It's almost 9. It's not too bad. Not too bad. And also, I don't think any person in their right mind, I mean, nobody's complained about the length of time so far on the episodes, but I don't think.
I didn't think we'd go that far. I figured we'd stop at an hour, but I'm like, okay, I guess time does fly.
It does fly. Well, and the main thing, and what I told you in the text messages is that, I always read the two rooms, right? We're not in the room together. So I read the two rooms, and if it feels like it's getting kind of, stale, then but nothing's
What
up.
are you reading? What are you reading about my room?
Well, I hope you're having a good time.
You tell me. You're the reader. Tell me.
I think you're having a good time, and I think that everybody else hearing your stories is having a good time. But for the sake of time, and selfishly, I just want the rest of the time for me and you whenever we get together and have old fashions. But not that there's any limit to our time together. But I guess let's wrap up a little bit, and then you and I will have our chat later. But I do want to give you the opportunity to plug what you have to plug. I mean, the episode we released with Utah today, and I'm sorry, I realized as I was doing it, I was like, oh, I didn't ask his permission, but I ripped one of your. Well, I bought your album, so at least I have that kind of.
Yeah, that's fine.
I bought it from you, so I put Moondance up and plugged your record. But
where did you do it? I watched part of the video. I couldn't find it.
Oh, it's in the first part.
Oh, the first part. Okay.
The intro is only. No, it's always in the intros. It's like
okay.
I sit right here, and right here I pop up a graphic, and so it's your album cover, and then underneath me speaking. But not too far underneath me speaking, is your voice. Not too far, Kenny Williams. But no, so it's there. But
okay.
Anyways, other than Kenny Williams Sings, which is just incredible and beautiful, Grace, and always in my, I don't know if I ever told you this, but Brian Casey, I don't know if you remember meeting him, who was my childhood and young adulthood mentor, even texted me probably 8 months to a year. I mean, we text a lot, but a significant amount of time had passed, and he said, hey, thank you so much again for telling me to come with you after Ruth's Chris one day to come down and see Kenny, because I don't think he was driving back that day. I think he has a condo in San Marcos, so I think he was driving down, but I had convinced him to come down and listen to you, because I was like, I remember that. You sound great. And I was like, you don't understand what great sounds like until you hear Kenny Williams at Three Forks Steakhouse. And so, but he texted me and he said, thank you so much for telling me about this, because Beth and I, his wife, are looking for another time to come up so they can hear you again. But other than Kenny Williams Wings, Kenny Williams Sings.
No more whistle pig for you.
Age the 12 year.
You're cut off.
I know. Other than that, what would you like to plug? What would you like people to know about?
Well, let's see. We have the live stream happening at Parker Jazz Club on Saturday nights at 8:00. Other than that, things are still slowly coming around, so there's not much to actually plug right now.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Well, but your website,
please join me at KennyWilliamsSings.com. KennyWilliamsSings.com. Very easy.
I love that. Please join me. That is grace. That is elegant. And then, do you still have physical copies that you have?
I do. The only physical copies I have left is I actually sold my last ones right before COVID happened. And then the only other physical copies I have are at Zach, and Zach is locked up because they're in the gift shop. So I need to order more, actually.
Okay.
So, but yeah, just let me know if anybody wants a copy. I'll just take the information and I can get one to you.
Yeah, and then
I thought about that today, and I was like, I need to go over to Zach when someone's there, so I can and have them let me in, so I can get that reserve.
Yeah, and anytime that anyone plugs anything, as you're saying, Kenny Williams Sings Slowly, I put it at the bottom of the screen, so people have that link. And yeah, I just visited his website today. You've got a contact section, and very forward of you. You have your personal cell number on there.
Yeah, people that contact me.
Yeah, sure.
How else do they contact me?
So we'll have that on there, and I don't think anyone's prepared for your nature boy. I think they'll just fall in love.
Oh God!
They'll be married with children, and they'll start to rethink their.
Oh my God! You're too kind. You're too kind.
So the way that we do end, if I may be so forward, the way that we end is we ask everybody that, and you might be in a very unique position too, where you have plenty of stories from the Broadway side of this, but I always say we have no shortage of gigs from hell and situations where everything goes awry. We've had everything from, do you know Sparky Thomason, the trumpet player in town? Sparky is amazing. I think you guys would get along famously. I'll introduce you. But Sparky told me about how he was at a gig with a friend of his, and someone who he had maybe, the friend had been involved with relationship-wise, had come up and said, such and such, you've done played me for the last time, pulls out a handgun, starts firing, and he had to pull him over the bar.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we've had tornadoes come through, and then the client still said after the tornado or storm came through, they still have to play the rest of the contracted time. We had Utah Hammer just told a story about how he was playing some very avant-garde music for a South by Southwest gig, and the only thing that was going to keep the whole thing cohesive and together was the drummer, because it was cordless. They didn't have a piano player or a guitar player. It was two basses, vocals, saxophone, and drums.
Okay. Oh, God.
And they had said once he got to the gig for South by Set, they said, the drummer couldn't get out of his job at Kinko's, and so we're going to have to do it without the drummer at South by. So there's been a ton of and other people where two guitar players were on the same gig and they started hitting each other with guitars while playing. It's been wild. So you've been every which way and the other. We didn't even talk about the Platters, but Platters, Broadway, Austin, wherever, Zach Theater. Do you have any crazy gig stories of just, you're like, what the hell is happening?
Not really. The only crazy gig story that pops to my mind is I was singing for a short time with the Matt Wilson band, and that was kind of like, if I was available in the interim from the Platters and doing whatever I was doing, because I do a lot of private gigs with weddings and party bands, and so we had a gig at Horseshoe Bay, Horseshoe Bay.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I still don't know to this day what happened. But I left my apartment with my clothes in hand because I was too hot. It was summertime, so I had to drive that far with my clothes on. So I had shorts and a t-shirt, and I had my clothes to change into. Had everything I needed. I got there. We hung out for a little bit. Then finally we changed to get ready for the gig. And my pants were gone. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have walked out without my pants. Where are my pants? And so I'm tracing my steps back, and I couldn't, and there were no pants. I'm like, I don't have any pants. And I was like, I can't go out there with no pants. Because I just had my shorts that I wore there, and that was it. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, he's like, ask one of the bus boys, they have an extra pair of pants. Or one of the waiters. But finally, one of the guys, I think it was a manager or something, had a pair of black, those kind of nylon, not track pants, but sports would kind of zip up on the side at the bottom.
Sure.
He said, you can wear these. And I was like, well, I have no choice because I have no pants. And I went out to the car to see if they fell off the hanger when I was coming in with my stuff. But I was like, you would think someone would report the pants if they did, but they didn't. And then I traced my cab back home. I was like, those pants were nowhere to be found. And I was like, there's no way those pants, I didn't leave them in my closet. I was like, there's no way they would just disappear. But they disappeared. And so I performed that with black shirt, my black coat, sports jacket, and those track pants, and my dress shoes.
You know what? You were performing in your own style. And
I felt so stupid though, because I was like, this looks horrible. Oh my God. But yeah, that was funny. That's probably the funniest thing. That's the first thing that popped in my head. That's
Did
when
you
like
ever have?
my
Or go ahead.
huh?
I was gonna say, did you ever have on Lion King? Do you ever have anything like a forgotten line or like a stumble
Oh
or
well, of course. That stuff happens all the time.
sure,
But that's just. I mean, that's when you get through it. It's par for the. It's kind of par for the course in so many ways.
Yeah.
I can't remember anything that stood. Oh my god.
This is good. Good. You told me I'm cut off. I'm gonna pour just a little bit more for this one.
Okay, I remember. Oh my God, I forgot about this tragic moment until now. Thanks, Christian. Thank you. Oh my God. Well, talk about staying in your lane. Because I've always been like, singers want to be dancers, dancers want to be singers.
Sure.
And so, like, I remember, like, before one of the show, like the dancers are always on stage warming up and stretching and blah blah blah. So I'm just out there hanging out with them, and like I was asked one of the dancers to do. I used to do the what they call the "She's Gonna Eat Me," the Pumbaa Pole puppet. When she says, "She's gonna eat me," when Nala is out looking for Simba, then she encounters Timon and Pumbaa, and she's like chasing them down, and she's gonna eat them. So part of that starts with the main characters, and then the dancers come on and they're what they call ground row outfits because they're like leaves and they're like the ground, and so they roll in. And so when they roll in, I come out. I have a Pumbaa on a stick, and I'm running, and then somebody has a Nala behind me, and so because the puppetry is integrated into the show,
Sure.
and so when the main actors leave the stage, when they take off running, I replace them with the puppet, and I'm running, and I'm like, and I'll do just a tuck jump.
Sure.
And that's all I did, with nothing too fancy. But the dancers, like the cheetah behind me, she would come out and she would run and she would jeté. She would jeté everything, and I was like, I want to do that. Oh my God. And so I'm out there before the show, and they're showing me how to, and I'm doing it. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's good form. It's like how to prep it and everything. I said, but I'm running full force. How do I prep that to then go into the jeté? And they showed me how, and like how to get, and then how to. But I never thought about the landing, going that fast, leaping in the air, and then coming down. What to do? And so they're like, "You gonna do it?" I was like, "I don't know." And so like I started my regular run, tuck jump the first time around, and it was on the last run where I run from the front of the stage left to the wing 2 and out. So I said, if I do the jeté, I'm gonna do the jeté out. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but I found some courage from somewhere, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And so I'm running that last run. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And like they're dancing, the dancers are dancing, they're looking at me, and I'm running, and I leaped into the air. Next thing I know, like I'm in the air, and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. I'm like, oh my God, but I'm coming down, and instead of just coming down and then keep running, I come down and I stumble, and I'm like, I hit the side of the wing, to the point to where I'm like, they're just gonna drag me off the stage. And I was like, oh my God. And they're out there, the dancers are dancing and they're cracking up laughing.
Oh.
And I was like, that's it. Like your jeté was beautiful. The leap was gorgeous. Like when I came down, I just came down and I just hit the ground. And instead of my momentum taking me forward, it took me forward and I just rolled. And and then I hit the side of the wing. And luckily I was at the wing and I just kind of slung all off the stage. And I'm like, and the stage manager was like, next time stick to your track.
Oh my Jesus Christ.
And they laughed so hard. I was like, oh my God. I was sore, but it was more my ego that was hurt than anything.
Sure.
And I was like, oh my God. That was probably the most hilarious thing that's happened to me in that show. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was crazy.
I love that story so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for 2 Two great gig stories. You had the typical story of the nightmare of when you wake up and you don't have you're given.
But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real.
And you didn't have your pants, but it was real. and then the hubris, the beautiful hubris to take your leap, and then
oh my God,
Piper had to be paid, I guess.
Right.
Beautiful. Kenny,
what other question you want to ask me?
That's usually the final one. I don't know if I have anything else to ask you. What's your address? Give everybody your address. What do you Uber? You Uber? What's your address? Just joking.
Oh no. KennyWilliamsSings@gmail.com.
That is it. That's the web address, baby. Beautiful. Well,
oh my God.
Do you have? I guess this is a personal, curious question. Do you have any plans to give us a Kenny Williams Sings Part 2?
Yeah, for sure. When? I don't know.
Now, do you plan on doing on the second one? Do you plan on doing things with a combo or a full band?
Oh, it'd be a bigger combo.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the essence of the duo with.
Oh, I do too. I mean, because that's what I was doing at that time, and so like, and in some ways, like when that album happened, it was kind of like the closing of a part of my life, like
Sure.
coming back to Austin and what I was doing. So it was kind of nice to kind of put a cap on that.
Sure.
Because that's when I was moving into the residency at Parker and just doing other things and expanding. And so it was nice to kind of have that cap on all that made that possible.
Yeah.
And so that's how I view that. Because that started out as just a project really for me to have something to shop myself with. I was like, this is what I do. That's how it started.
And not to tire out that analogy of what I was saying earlier with my records and how you were telling me about my records, but you're right. It's a snapshot in time of where you are.
Perfect snapshot. Yes.
And then it's saying, okay, and then this is where I was at this time. And if everything sounded amazing and homogenous over the course of your entire career, what's the interest in that? You want to hear the differences of environment and vocal ability and vocal progression. So that way, and I promise I didn't plan this, but I'm gonna wrap this up in a beautiful bow for you. It wraps up the beautiful narrative that is Kenny Williams, where you can tell a story through your albums of where you were at every point in time, not only on the gig, but by albums and your entire being of a performer.
Yes.
Beautiful. So, ladies and gentlemen, the grand exit of the beautiful, amazing, now mustached and goateed Kenny Williams, who is just one of my dearest friends and I love so much. You are elegance, grace, authenticity, and being genuine, and I love you very much. And my life would be a much darker place without you in it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Christian Wiggs, for inviting me to be on the show.
I love you, Kenny. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
I have a feeling, it's a feeling I'm concealing, I don't know why. It's just a mental, incidental, sentimental alibi. But I adore you, so strong for you. Why go on stalling? I am falling, love's a calling, why be shy? Let's fall in love, why shouldn't we fall in love? Our hearts are made of it, let's take a chance, why be afraid of it? Let's close our eyes and make our own paradise. Little we know of it, still we can try to make a go of it. We each other, to be or not to be, let our hearts discover. Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we fall in love? Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in love. Fall in love. Now is the time for it while we are young. Now is the time for it while we are young. Now is the time.